Hey, how's it going? In today's video, I speak with Dr. Jeremy Tubbs, who's a professor of music and entertainment at the University of Memphis Lambeth campus. He also happens to be my very first guitar teacher. When I worked with him at a really young age, there are things that I'm still drawing from those experiences that really set me up to succeed in my career. It was really fun getting to catch up and reconnect with Jeremy. And without further ado, here's Dr. Jeremy Tubbs. Man, well, I mean, obviously, I just wanted to catch up, get an excuse to do this. I've been
I'm glad you
stacking up some interviews. But I was like, well, I mean, the best place to start for me would be who I took lessons from.
did. Yeah,
But also, I'm just curious about, is it EMI? Is that the name of the program?
it was.
It was.
It's now called Music and Entertainment
Okay.
Department, and that's because we switched it over. Luckily and happily and thankfully, it took 6 years to get the state of Tennessee to finally approve what we were trying to do, commercial music program. Because everything lives in such a traditional world. You know, you study opera, you study violin, you study piano, you study, even music business was linked into that. So what we did at the University of Memphis is that we were able to say, okay, music business, basically performance practices or, songwriting and performing is the second one, recording technology, and then entertainment. So we defined each of those concentrations, took it to the state, and then spent several of us spent years refining that and polishing and giving it back to the state to approve. And they would come back and be like, you should try to do this, you should try to do these various things. So I literally was like, with the other people that were involved, there were a handful of people. We just configured it and refined it to the point where the state, I think, said, like, these guys aren't going away. Like, let's do something. So what we did is the University of Memphis, at the main campus in Memphis, has the recording technology program, the performance practice program, and the music business program. And in Jackson, Tennessee, which is our satellite campus, we live with the music and entertainment program. So we are doing kind of a combination of all three. So we are the utility knife of all three of those programs in Memphis. So we're not a recording program, but we do recording.
Right.
And we're not a music business program, but we do some of the classes that are reflected into the music business concentration. And then I'd say our biggest focus, and the students who have graduated from here, they become musicians. That's my goal. I want them to be musicians, not just a guitar player or a drummer or a bass player or a piano player or a singer. I want them to be focused as a musician, study the languages, understand the terms, the concepts, the building blocks of what is, how to be a professional musician in a modern world.
Yeah.
And grow into their own sort of focus and desire. So individualistically, a fingerprint of who they want to be in the real world. So the students gain sort of like real world knowledge. They get the experience. I call it experiential learning credits. They have to gain 100 of those. That means they have to do something that's really like big. And then work a show, if they work a show for 4 hours, that's, coming through town, or, not just playing shows, because I don't think that's always just, it's important, but it's not just that, it's other things. Yeah. It's like the utility knife again of that. You got to be able to understand live audio. You got to understand studio audio. You got to understand how microphones work. You got to understand how to change a pickup in a guitar. I mean, I do all that. So, and it's not just for the guitar players. I mean, I literally had a student yesterday. I had her restring her guitar, and you need to know how to restring your guitar. So, so at 19, she's learning to do it for the first time, so.
That's so awesome. I've been kind of watching, from a vantage point of just social media and just kind of seeing stuff, keeping up with it. From my vantage point, the utility knife, you're learning practical application. If your main focus is I want to be a singer, that doesn't mean you shouldn't know how, to restring your guitar if you're going to be playing a guitar. Know what microphone is what, those are like real world pieces of knowledge. It's hard to gain outside of just kind of going out there and doing it. That's what a unique position to be in, to be able to have like a curated platform that you're going to learn these without, you know, making some of those mistakes when you're on your own, you know, like going out and just doing it, having an environment that's like curated for that is so cool. So what do you see, a lot of students that are like going the DIY route, as far as like knowing, like you said, kind of dabbling in music business, knowing, you know, what are the steps to take, having even a curated plan is like leaps and bounds above what a lot of people even have, you know, to begin with. So what do you see a lot of people going that route where they're more hands-on, and it seems like you're kind of encouraging people to do that?
Yeah. So the thing that I set out to do was, I didn't know what to define this program for the first 4 years. And honestly, I made mistakes too. I mean, I can go back and I tried my best during those first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And the results were some really, really good students that were passionate and did great things. And, you know, then I felt like I failed some of them. Yeah, I really did. I really still to this day feel like I could have done a better job with some of them. But I learned that we didn't have the infrastructure in place to really adhere to some things. So the thing was focusing on what the program was, how it can move forward, defining like our goals, and saying like a student that comes in, and I have various students, by the way. You know, when you grow up, I was a student for so long, and I had so many mentors, you know, that, you know, you got a piece of them. You know, you got a piece of a lot of great people, you know, when we worked together, and, you know, the things they showed me, the things that were able to, you know, like carry over into my own, you know, career. And then you've done the same thing. I mean, I guess a piece of me lives with you at some, you know, in some awesome way, you know? So, I think the thing is just like, once we kind of got our feet, and I would say it had been about 10 years ago, we started to then pivot. We were able to, like, we had stretched, we'd worked out, we'd defined what our program was, and then we started to actually play games, you know?
Yeah.
And, some wonderful students came through the program before that too. I mean, literally, I mean, I appreciate and thankful of the dozens of, because the program actually started by Norbert Putnam. Norbert was the session player at Muscle Shoals. He goes on to Nashville, and he becomes the main producer for Jimmy Buffett. I mean, Jimmy Buffett, all the Jimmy Buffett records are Norbert's records. But Norbert also played bass with Elvis at some point. I mean, he was like this guru guy. He's still alive, by the way. He's probably 85. He's in that same age of those old Stax guys, you know, like Steve Cropper and Booker T. Washington, all those, you know, Booker T. Jones. So it's like all those guys are the same age. You know, they're in their early 80s or mid 80s now, and you know, he still is, you know, doing great stuff. But this program started because of Norbert, and really kind of met with him, and he shared the vision, and then we started to go from there. And so the idea there was, what Norbert did was like catapult it into atmosphere, and then we had to figure out what to do after that, you know? Because he was just he could not legally teach. He didn't have the credentials, right? I mean, if you're gonna do surgery, you have to have the credentials to do the surgery. Well, some people can do the surgery. They've learned, you know, grandma taught them how to stitch and cut and sew and all that stuff, and they can do that, but they don't have the credentials. So music is like a lot of people can go out into the world and just do it. And Norbert's a perfect example of that. You can go out and create good music that people love and buy, and you can have a career without having the credentials. You really can. You still have to put the 10,000 hours in, you know, you still have to have all that like learning experience. You know, most people can't just walk on where, you know, Mozart's are not, you know, every other, you know, decade. They're every 300 years, you know. It's just like, we get those guys, we get those people who are like that, but most people like are not anywhere close to that. And we have to work really hard and learn, you know, and So what I've done is tried to balance the two over the years. So we define what it is, we figure out what it is, and then we get that where, you know, the experience comes in to the actual academic training of gaining the Bachelor of Arts in Music is a highly detailed growing process that takes students.
Yeah.
And I tell them from day one, you know, transfer students come in and they'll be here 2 years because they've had all their core stuff, so they're just really taking the music classes. But I'm like, I wish you would have been here all 4 years. You know, I think that's my overall goal, is to have them here for 4 years to where they really work and define. And I find that the students that are here, even though they're great at a 2-year pace, they still will come back and like, I wish I had another, you know, year or two. And they say that all the time. I hear that all the time. So it's like, you wish you had another year or two, because that's it really is the way it's designed to be a 4-year. You're with me, intense. You're coming from maybe a high school situation where you've learned some guitar, you've learned some drums, you've learned how to sing in choir, or you know how to read music, maybe a basic theory class, piano class, whatever. And then you get to here, and I'm able to say, we're about to turn you from a piano player into a musician.
Yeah.
A balanced person.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, so first off, I mean, what an incredible reassurance that you have frequently students wishing they had another year of just that experience. I think that's credit to
a lot.
the environment that you create. And also, I mean, you know, I can't imagine how you qualify things to be able for it to work on an academic level with the standards set in place by the state and everything else. Like, I mean, that's a logistical nightmare I can't even begin to fathom.
I can't even describe it.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's email after email after email after this, after that. And then it's a daily routine almost, for 6 years. Yeah.
Man.
I think it took 6 years total. Yeah.
How, this is not something that I wrote down, but I'm curious, how is that like taught you about musicianship or what it means to be a musician? Because like, in order to even do that, you kind of have to go through every little aspect of what it's like to be a musician with a fine-tooth comb to then qualify it to, and that's really interesting to me. Like, what discoveries, what did you learn in that process?
I mean, well, okay, let me give you like the foundational part, because you'll be blown away by this. Actually, your listeners will be blown away. Studio recording has changed so much. So in 2006 or 7, in my upstairs, studio in Memphis, I had a basic digital performer recording studio that I could do demos in. But I had drum set set up, guitar amp set up. I could mic things.
Yeah, I have it written down. I vividly remember the Gretsch Catalina kit. That the kick drum sounded awesome because it's that whatever 20-inch deep, and then you had the Bean Line 6 pod set up, and then the Cyber Twin set up, and there was a few different rigs, and it was all like patched in. I mean, there are kind of what you were talking about earlier, like those experiences, literally being in that room. And I went out and found another one of these tie-dye Strats, because this is what I remember using this guitar a lot.
Yeah, you did.
But I mean, this studio is like, I can draw points all the way back to that upstairs room that you had.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is the dream. Everything wired in. Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's that thing where that was just starting, right? Everybody was still working in studios, and even up to that point where iTunes comes out and YouTube is kind of starting 2006, and this whole like online in your house recording studio thing was starting to happen, where people were leaving. But I mean, I remember doing sessions in Nashville in 2010 or 11, sitting down with the guys who own the studio, and they're like, we're about to sell because we can't make enough money. And I mean, I literally sat down with a guy, and I'm not going to say who it is because people would know. He basically looked me straight in the eyes, and he goes, I'm selling. You know, I can't do Nashville prices anymore. And that was 2010.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's pretty crazy. So 2011 and 12, it starts to shift over where you have, you know, recording revolution, and you have like one or two guys talking about how to plug an interface into your computer and start to record. And that's when this program was really starting to take. It was 4 years. That was the third year in, right?
Yeah.
So we were trying to define like how we're going to have a music studio, you know, because we have a full-fledged Memphis, Nashville.
Right.
It's a mini Ardent,
Yeah.
or you know, a mini, you know, sound shop or whatever in this building here. And I built it from scratch with the help of some students and some friends, and we made it a full, accessible, professional recording studio, but also navigating the landscape that was now 2012
yeah,
of all the things that were coming out. You've got to have the Waves bundle. You've got to have this. You've got to have Sound Toys. You've got to have this interface. You've got to have this, you know, thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's
like
the most rapid change in the, you know, like the physical capturing of performances for making records. All of it was changing,
and
every
we didn't know.
year.
We had there was no textbook. I mean, there were people who were writing stuff in magazines and textbooks, but we were all sort of like, and that's the thing, the old school way of doing it, okay, was the old school way of doing it. And so the people who were making it that way were great. I mean, I listen to the records still and go like, how did they make it sound that good, you know?
Yeah.
And so you had those, and then you had this new wave of people coming in that were totally in the box, totally in their house, making great, you know, music that just was new and original and innovative and all these things. And it was starting to merge at that time when I was trying to figure out how are we going to do this exactly, and how are we going to bring in like the analog part to the technology part.
Like,
and
do you get a console? Like that's got to be a huge question, you know, like, and that's a big thing nowadays. I mean, you can find G-Bus like crazy SSL desks right now for honestly cheap, but it's just like, where the hell are you going to put it? And like, and do what with it? You know, plug it into your Apollo or
right. No, I've seen a lot of studios recently where, you know, all the preamps are all, you know, in the actual tracking space, and then they just run an interface in it's just an interface. There's no preamp tracking in the main studio. It's all, you know, all the preamp, everything's plugged into the main room, you know. So it's just like, we did that first. That's the first thing we did. Norbert was like an old school, and remember Norbert produced all the Jimmy Buffett records. And you know what he used? And this is what he said, basically, you know, even for years later, is that, you know, he was like, you just need, you know, a Yamaha O2R, you know, just plug it in and then record and make the sounds great. Like, make it sound good in the room, you know, and then just record it to tape.
Fix it in pre.
Fix it first. And have the musicians play it 101 times, and then you capture 102, you know, like play it 100 times, capture 102. And you got it. So that's the Tom Petty approach to it all. I mean, they played it all at the same time. So, and those songs are iconic, and they sound great, and they sound real and acoustic, and just, you know, earthy and great stuff, you know, but we don't live in that world anymore. And, we need both of those. I think there are players, you know, and bands that can get together, but there are also, you know, these other group of creatives. And so, I think at first my biggest challenge was marrying those two worlds together in a time period which is not like today, where everything, you know, Pro Tools was slow tools, and you know, some people were using Logic Pro, and you know, Ableton was really starting to take off, and you know, I was using Digital Performer at first, and then switched over to Pro Tools when everybody else was like, hey, you've got to use Pro Tools. I mean, I was tracking I was doing session work at, you know, studios in Memphis, and everybody was, you know, using Pro Tools, and so I was like, I've got to figure this out. So I did. got certified and everything. So
Man, yeah,
it was crazy.
I
Uh,
I made the switch like maybe 8 years ago to Logic,
yeah,
and
I
I
love
mean
Logic. I love it.
I love. I mean, the crazy thing is like that was a crazy rapid time of like Firewire interfaces to Thunderbolt 3 is kind of a pretty short amount of time for the
Oh, yeah,
crazy changes
yeah.
that happened. And nowadays it doesn't matter. It's just like, what do you know? Now, that being said, Logic has a sound, and I feel like I can hear it instantly. And so I feel like I spend most of my time trying to take the Logic sound out of everything I do. But yeah, I mean, that's I can't imagine that time of like, at the same time also trying to qualify some of these things to be able to make a plan, have a goal, and define, like what you said, like what were the goals there. So going back to performance and entertainment, I feel like that was something that even like when we were taking lessons at your house in Memphis, that was such a clear, like now looking back, like that was evident, like there was, intent to like, we're going to learn techniques through songs, but not to just play to yourself in the bedroom, but like, what is it like to play these with other people?
Yeah,
And
that
I
was
feel like that I learned so much, in that. And like, that was doing those Rock U camps where it's like, we're kind of, that was like setting an example of, honestly, as I've gone, through life and explored this career, like that was a really amazing environment that was like best case scenario for what it's like to record and hang out with a band and play with a band.
Yeah.
And to get to experience that was so cool. How is that like, that seems like there's a through line, thread that carries through today, because I see that y'all are playing in Jackson all the time, like at venues in front of people. And that's like real world experience. That, what do you think is the most important thing that people learn through performing in front of other people, but playing with people versus, studying your instrument kind of isolated?
The concept is not mine, and it's something that I recognized early on. It was like, what was the thing that put me above the edge, above like just being an amateur or hobbyist, Rick Rubin says it all the time. It's like, sometimes you have a job that feeds your hobby, and sometimes your hobby is your job. And, sometimes you have to do something. If you really love to fish, you're probably not going to be a professional fisherman. You're going to fish for fun, right? Well, there's a lot of people who play music for fun, and that's great. we need that, actually.
Yeah.
But there are also people who want to be professionals at it. Okay. If you want to be a professional at it, then you have to take it to this next level that is beyond sitting in your bedroom or your house or playing along on the porch with your friends, which is all fine. And I do both. I do all that. We do that all the time. But it's a professional thing where you go to a show, you look the part, you act the part, and you put on a professional performance, or you make a professional recording, or you make, demos sometimes are great, and sometimes you can release demos as a EP or acoustic version or whatever. But to really have a standard there is why we listen to the music that we listen to, is because it has been brought up to that professional level. So early on, I realized that students need a goal. They need a thing to work towards. They need to start here. So you learn a John Mayer song. Great. Okay. There's a big difference than you learning that John Mayer song in our lesson than you playing that John Mayer song with a drummer, a bass player, a lead singer, another guitar player in front of 100 people or 200 people. Because some of those recitals that we put on, all the parents, all the grandparents of 40 kids were there, so it's like 250 people sitting in the audience, and you're 12 years old playing a song for not just your parents or grandparents, but your peers, that's a big one too, by the way, your peers
Yeah.
and, your the people who love you. And then there's just the random, you know, Alex's stepdad who shows up and
Yeah.
so you've got just random people who are just watching, and it was always setting up for success, even when the songs sometimes didn't work out the way we had rehearsed them.
Mhm.
I never, ever, ever, never, out of all those years, 12, 13, 11 years of doing all those things in Memphis, that it ever being a train wreck. I don't ever remember a train
Mm.
wreck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of songs played
Yeah.
by 8-year-olds to, well, I mean, the one woman that took lessons was 72. And she was
Yeah.
up on stage playing drums. Do you remember her? She was
Yeah.
72
Oh,
years
yeah.
old. I mean, and playing that drum set, she just like in retirement, she wanted to learn how to play drums, and
Yeah, that's so
I
cool.
made her do the recital. I was like, "You're going to get on stage," and you're going.
Yeah.
So, um, but it was all a process to get the students to not just learn the one song. That was the, sort of the kind of end goal, but
Mhm.
between the one song and all the techniques and all the, reading and counting and, whatever the instrument.
And I remember there was like this, I don't know, there was a chemistry there that were like, we were learning way more than just the music. And
Yeah.
I think that peer thing is what you were talking about is
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Peer.
important.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yep.
just because it's like, you don't want to let them down. And
Yeah.
then it's also, there's like a competition, and it's all, like these are things that honestly, thank God I learned then and in that environment, because I've been in situations where I'm, maybe witnessing somebody learn these things in the real world in a not as awesome environment. And then it's like the repercussions are a lot worse. But yeah, I don't ever remember anything being a train wreck. Like it was like even doing a song in front of people and it not
Yeah.
going, how you planned, or not going even well. You have to learn how to do that. And those are things that I think for a lot of people, it's also like that real world experience. And I'm sure you've witnessed this, where maybe they realize that they love to play music and that's it, because playing music is not being a professional musician. Like, 6-year-old me would be losing his mind with all the stuff I have in my studio, but like, I wish I could just jam out, and nerd out all day. But it's like, most of my energy goes into the things that I don't know, learning what is it like to, run a small business and be an independent contractor, musician, and learning those things, I think sometimes can be eye-opening for people, because it's, there's a lot of, some people think it's magic and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And, it's like you said earlier, like if you want to be a professional, that means, bringing things to a higher standard and frankly treating it, like a business, and that's some of those things can be discouraging for sure,
Well, I start off on day one. We do freshman seminar, and we meet 3 times for dinner. It's a
That's
class.
awesome.
It's a class.
Mm.
We meet 3 times during the semester. We eat and we talk about things. And so we've already done our first one. And during that first one is basically how to be the wisest college freshman you can be. Now, all the pitfalls, all the data, all the research. So it's not about being just here to study music. It's also learning how to be a human, to budget, to do your taxes, to be a contributor, to be a teammate, to be a better child to your parents, to learn how to be somebody that works well with others, communicates, emails back on time, texts, on time. Don't get on social media and bash people. Don't get on, like, that stuff will come back to haunt you. Don't put yourself in a position where somebody who might hire you one day is going to look at your, Facebook or Instagram account and go like, that person's toxic and I don't want them in my company or whatever, So, I guess what I'm saying is, like, from day one, I tell them that I am one, their biggest fan. I want them to succeed. I'm not here as a job. This is a passion for me.
Yeah.
I would be here if the students. I mean, I can teach intro to music all day long on
Yeah.
campus, and they would hire me full time to just do that probably. I mean, so I'm doing this because my passion. Okay, teacher mode, right? Musicians are never ponds. We are
Mm.
not. We are not stagnant bodies of water that just sit in a hole.
Yeah.
We are rivers. We are oceans. We are vast. We are deep. We are moving. We're always in conflict as well, almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we're creatives. My biggest Achilles heel is discontentment. That's always been my, and I didn't realize that about myself until I needed to, and I woke up and was like, whoa, discontentment. That's mine thing. And then I kind of bounced it off a couple of people, and they're like, yeah, that probably is your most, not all of it, but yeah, that it seems like most of the times that if something's not, grooving the way I want it to groove, and doing the things I feel like it should be doing, then I will become discontent in my situation and want to change it.
Yeah.
And, musicians are, most of the time we are emotional. We are driven by the heart. We are, always a bohemian in some way. We like to travel. We like to move. We like to, if you are a pond, that's waking up every day at the same time and going to a job and sitting in an office cubicle and doing your job and getting off work, going to dinner or whatever, and then go home, watch TV, go to bed every day of your life. And that to me is not how creatives are. And people who are like that. Now, I know I have many friends that do that, and they love their life. They love their life. They're like, I want to be a pond. I don't want to move around. There's nothing wrong with being a pond.
Yeah.
But we aren't. We
it's
have
a different.
We have to be creatives, and I don't know all the answers, and I'm not right all the time, and I don't try to be. I mean, I work with a lot of people. You know this. You work with a lot of people that have different opinions and different ideas, and some are going to say, they don't like the way that you do something, and that song, that melody, that guitar tone is not what they're looking for, or the way you acted on stage, the way you jumped around on stage is not what we're looking for. You're old. Not what we're looking. It's like it's those things. Yeah. Those things happen, right? So being a creative and being in an art where we are able to sort of pour out, our innards, our hearts, our passions, our spirit, our soul. I, though, learned many years ago, even before I taught and worked with you over those, I think in my early 20s, I learned that this had to connect to this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be academic in so many ways. You have to like have a foundation that's knowledge based. And you put the passion and the heart into the knowledge, and let the knowledge control the passion. So I tell students that, it's okay to be an ocean. It's okay to flow and to be wild and have storms and, just be creative, but not with a reckless abandon. We don't want to just go into the ocean on a sailboat with no sail. So let's get out and let's learn how to sail. Let's put the sails up and let's learn that we have destinations. We got to navigate, and let's use that passion and that moving emotion that you have inside with the process of, I need to know certain aspects. You won't know everything. You don't know the future. You don't know the people who are going to come into your life. You don't know the relationships you're going to build with those people.
Yeah.
But all those like foundational knowledge things that a person can gain, I try to work with them in some way to get to that place to where they can feel good.
That is so important. I mean, that's as a creative, I mean, like, wired different, and let's say somebody came up to me and was like, well, what's it like to be a songwriter for a living?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some days that means the first human I talk to is my wife when I get home, and I've spent 4 hours today dealing with some of the heaviest stuff that you can experience in life and trying to put that into a piece of music, that's also due, at 8 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. And it's like, you can't, because I'm the same way. And I think a lot of creatives are. Discontentment has been my Achilles heel too. It's like, as soon as I feel settled or comfortable, I'm like, all right, pack it up, move cross country. Let's do something crazy. I get so afraid of being stagnant that I had to learn through hard lessons, that you have to use your brain, and you have to use that, being able to put all of yourself into something, but just as easily let it go.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that hang up so many people who are incredibly talented, but it becomes so personal that they're not able to let go of that. And so it feels painful. And it's like, as a creative, knowing that about yourself, I think is a huge first step, because a lot of people don't know. And then what you do with that, is like, you can make life harder for yourself or easier.
Yeah.
And that's, unfortunately, I think most people, especially creatives who tend towards, independence and lone wolf and bohemian, the only way you're going to learn it is in real time by making the mistake. And the best thing you can do is prepare them for that.
Yeah.
What would be a helpful plug for people to maybe like read more about the music and entertainment program?
So the thing is that it is a concentration at the University of Memphis, but we are not in Memphis. We are in Jackson, Tennessee, which is in between Memphis and Nashville. A lot of people, we have a very healthy music environment in West Tennessee. We're in between the two major cities, and we have a rock and roll phase, and we have you get the Nashville and you get the Memphis, but we are very healthy here in Jackson. Our music program reflects that, but we are a part of the University of Memphis, so we are the U of M Lambeth campus, because we are at the old Lambeth University. So that's the plug, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
cool, man. It's so good to just be able to catch up and to talk. This was
yeah, you too.
It was
very
really cool,
very
man.
Awesome. And I follow you and love everything you're doing, man. So
man, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks for watching this video, and if you've watched up into this point and you're not subscribed, please ask that you do so. It makes a huge difference, and it's the best way to support me at this time. If you're interested in learning more about the music and entertainment program at the University of Memphis Lambeth campus, I'll have links down in the description below. And once again, I want to thank Dr. Jeremy Tubbs for taking the time to reconnect, get to catch up, and really talk about what this program is and how it came to be. Till next time, I've been Colin.